I lived with the GU family for 20 years and single-handedly built GU Auctions into an industry leader. But the very day the GU family's true daughter was found, the whole family threw me out of the house, not even leaving me a change of clothes. They took my ancestral restoration secret recipe and vowed to blacklist me across the industry, not knowing the iron gate of the GU villa slammed shut behind me with a clang that made my palms go numb. 2 maids dumped my 2 suitcases on the steps. Outside the gate, the zippers burst open, my clothes spilled out and were instantly soaked by the torrential rain. By the floor-to-ceiling window in the villa's living room stood the newly recovered true daughter of the GU family, GU Nyanru. She was wearing my silk nightgown, with the diamond necklace GU Jingchen had given me for my 18th birthday around her neck. She waved at me, a triumph she couldn't hide tugging at the corner of her mouth. The GU parents sat on the sofa without so much as lifting their heads, as if I, the daughter they had raised for 20 years, had never existed. GU Jingchen stood in the doorway in a bespoke suit, his hair combed perfectly, his face expressionless. The way he looked at me was like looking at a stranger. I looked at him and spoke, my voice trembling against the sound of the rain. "Brother, I've lived in this family for 20 years, are you really going to treat me like this?" He snorted, took a step forward and looked down at me. "Su Qingyang Nyanru is the real eldest daughter of the GU family. You've taken 20 years of her life, now that she's back you should get out." He lifted his chin toward the suitcase on the floor. "Everything you have was given to you by the GU family. Now, apart from these 2 suitcases, don't expect to take anything else. Your studio, your car, your cards, I'm taking them all back." I stared at him, my fingers white with tension. "Who helped the GU auction reach where it is today? Who authenticated those artifacts for you? Who restored those shabby ruined paintings so they could sell for hundreds of millions? Who helped you secure cooperation with the National Museum, GU Jingchen? Half of what you have now was earned because of me. So what?" He sneered, his tone full of contempt. "You ate the GU family's food, lived in the GU family's house, worked for the GU family. Isn't that what you were supposed to do?" A foster daughter really went and thought she was a GU heiress. He paused, his gaze as cold as ice. "Also, I'll put it this way today, in the entire cultural relics and art industry, whoever dares to use you, Su Qingyang, whoever dares to cooperate with you, is going against my GU corporation. I want to see what you'll be like without the GU family." After saying that, he turned and walked into the villa. The front door closed again, completely cutting off the warmth inside from the wind and rain outside. I stood in the rain, soaked through, looking at the scattered clothes on the ground and the 2 worn suitcases. My mind was a blank. 20 years of upbringing, 20 years of brother-sister affection, worthless in front of that newly found real daughter. I crouched down, picked up the clothes strewn on the ground and put them into the suitcase, then pulled the case and walked step by step out of the wealthy neighborhood where the GU family lived. The rain grew heavier, there wasn't a single car on the road. I dragged 2 heavy suitcases along the waterlogged street, drenched and shivering from the cold. Just then a black Bentley slowly stopped beside me. The window rolled down, revealing a sharply defined face. It was Lu Shiyang, the heir of the Lu family, owner of the villa next door that was 3 times larger than the GU's, the actual controller of the top domestic Lu group, and the true richest man in Jiangcheng. We had only seen each other a few times at banquets before and barely spoken. He looked at my soaking appearance, furrowed his brow, and spoke in a low voice tinged with a trace of cold. "Get in." I stood frozen, unmoving. "The rain's this heavy, are you planning to stand by the roadside until dawn?" He added in a tone that allowed no refusal. I gritted my teeth, pulled the suitcase and got into his car. The heater inside was strong. I sat in a corner, soaked, not daring to move for fear of wetting his leather seats. He handed me a clean towel without a word. I took the towel and quietly said, "Thank you." The car drove on for less than 2 minutes and stopped at the gate of the Lu family villa. The driver got out and helped me take down the suitcases. Lu Xiang got out and looked at me, then said, "Come in." I stood there, clutching the towel awkwardly, and whispered, "Brother, sorry for troubling you." He raised an eyebrow, looked at me, and the corner of his mouth curled into a half smile half sneer as he said coldly, "I don't have such a big sister as you. My heart sank instantly, thinking he was going to send me away, but the next moment he stepped forward, bent down to look at me, his voice lowered with an indistinct nuance. If she's a wife, then she's not a bother. I froze, my mind blank. I didn't even feel the rain hitting my face. He didn't speak again and turned to walk into the villa, leaving behind. Come in, don't stand in the rain and catch a cold. I don't want to take care of a patient. I stood there, watching his back and the brightly lit Lu villa, stunned for a long time. I didn't know why Lu Xiang had suddenly helped me, nor whether his line "if she's a wife, then she's not a bother" was a joke or sincere. All I knew was that when the whole world had cast me out, this man I had no previous connection with gave me shelter from the wind and rain. I pulled my suitcase and walked through the front gate of the Lu villa. The rain behind me still fell, but I knew that from the moment I stepped through this door, everything would be different. Jiyu Jingchen, you said you'd make me unable to survive in this industry. Just wait, I will make you realize that what you threw away today is the trump card you will never be able to grasp again. On the third floor of the Lu villa, Lu Xiang had prepared a suite for me with a private restoration studio. The bedroom was stocked with brand new clothes, skincare products, and daily necessities. The restoration equipment in the studio was even more complete than the studio I had at the Jiyu family's, all top imported equipment. I stood in the studio looking at everything before me and couldn't put my feelings into words. The butler knocked, came in and smiled as he spoke. Miss Su, Mr. Lu had these devices arranged overnight yesterday. He said you do artifact restoration, so these will definitely be useful. Breakfast is ready, please come downstairs to eat. I nodded and followed the butler downstairs. Lu Xiang sat at the dining table looking at his tablet. When he heard footsteps he glanced up. Sit. I pulled out a chair and sat, whispering, "Thank you, Mr. Lu." "No need." He put down the tablet and looked at me. "When I help you it's not for nothing. The Lu Group is building a private museum and needs a top restoration expert. You happen to be a good fit." I froze for a moment, then realized so he wanted to hire me as the restoration specialist for his private museum. I immediately spoke. "Mr. Lu, please rest assured I will do my utmost and won't let you down." He said nothing, only nodded and continued his breakfast. Just then my phone began ringing non-stop. It was my assistant Xia calling. I answered. Before I could say hello, Xia's voice came through tearful. "Sister Su, it's bad, something huge happened." My heart sank. "What is it? Tell me slowly." "All the clients we worked with have sent termination letters. The restoration project at the National Museum has been suspended, and the internet is full of trending accusations against you, saying you switched artifacts, faked restorations. Now the whole web is attacking you." I hung up and opened Weibo. On the trending list, the top entries were all about me with a glaring breaking label. #Su Qingyang artifact forgery, #Su Qingyang swapped national treasure, #truth behind Su Qingyang being kicked out of the GU family. I opened the first post. It was full of copy-paste pieces from gossip accounts claiming I used restoration work to swap national artifacts, replacing real pieces with high-quality fakes, and that all the restorations I'd done were fakery to fool clients. They even said my status as an inheritor of intangible cultural heritage was bought with the GU family's connections. They included several forged restoration records and a video of Jiyu Jingchen being interviewed by the media. In the video, Jiyu Jingchen looked regretful as he faced the camera. "Qingyang lived with our family for 20 years. We treated her like our own daughter. But we never expected she would do this. We only just discovered it. We are heartbroken and have no choice but to throw her out. We hope she realizes her mistake and reforms." The comments were all insulting me. "So she's a thief. I actually thought she was great at restoring artifacts. Disgusting." The GU family was way too kind, raised a 20-year ingrate, and they're still polite about it. Without the GU family she's nothing. People like her should be banned from the profession forever and never touch artifacts again. I swiped the screen, my fingers tightening slightly. "Jiyu Jingchen, you're vicious. Not only did you throw me out, you want to ruin my career so I can never hold my head up in this field again." Then my phone rang again. It was the Secretary General of the National Association of Artifact Restoration calling. I answered. "Su Qingyang, the association is holding an emergency online meeting about your alleged forgery and artifact swapping. Join the meeting immediately and give everyone an explanation." I took a deep breath and said, Okay, I'll join the meeting now. After hanging up, I clicked the meeting link and entered the online conference room. The leadership of the association and the country's top restoration experts were all present, dozens of people. Jiyu Jingchen was in the meeting too. His camera was on and he sat there looking righteous. When he saw me enter, the association's Secretary-General immediately spoke, his tone grave. Su Qingyang, the negative news about you online has been rampant and seriously harmed our industry's reputation. Mr. Jiyu proposes to immediately revoke your restoration qualifications and put you on the industry blacklist. Do you have anything to say? Jiyu Jingchen spoke up at once, his tone high and self-righteous. Teachers, leaders, Su Qingyang's actions have seriously violated industry rules and broken the law. This black sheep must be removed from our ranks immediately, otherwise who will trust us cultural relic restorers in the future? I propose we vote now to revoke Su Qingyang's qualification. The conference room fell silent, everyone muted themselves. No one spoke, no one dared offend Jiyu Jingchen, and no one dared speak for me. Jiyu Jingchen looked at the screen with a smug smile tugging at his lips. Just then, someone walked into the conference room. It was Lu Xiang. He unmuted immediately, his voice low and authoritative, leaving no room for doubt. I want to ask, President Jiyu, you accuse Su Qingyang of fraud. What's your evidence? Jiyu Jingchen's face changed instantly, looking at Lu Xiang on the screen. His tone went stiff. President Lu, this is an internal industry meeting. You're an outsider. It wouldn't be appropriate for you to participate, would it? Oh, Lu Xiang gave a light laugh. Su Qingyang is the chief restoration specialist hired by my Lu Group's private museum. Her reputation is our reputation. Smearing her is slandering Lu Group. Do you think I should stay out of it? He paused, then continued. You claim she faked things. Can you produce authoritative appraisal reports? Do you have evidence she swapped artifacts with just a few forged screenshots and some baseless gossip? You want to revoke a national-level restorer's qualification, President Jiyu. Do you think the industry association belongs to your Jiyu family? After saying this, he shared his screen in the meeting, showing Gu's auction houses complaint records over the past 3 years for selling fakes, along with buyers' appraisal reports, each case laid out clearly. Before attacking Su Qingyang, President Jiyu, you should handle your own company. After all, auctioning fakes to swindle money is far more serious than alleged restoration fraud. The conference room erupted. Everyone began whispering. Jiyu Jingchen's face flushed and paled in turns, shaking with anger and unable to utter a word. I unmuted at once and shared all my past restoration project acceptance reports, the National Cultural Relic Bureau's authentication certificates, and my intangible cultural heritage inheritance records with the meeting. Teachers, leaders, I, Su Qingyang, have been restoring cultural relics for 12 years and have restored 17 national first-class artifacts. All my restoration work has complete records and authoritative appraisal reports. I have never committed fraud. All the rumors online are malicious fabrications by Jiyu Jingchen. I have hired a lawyer to handle all the accounts spreading these lies and will sue Jiyu Jingchen for defamation. I paused, then looked at Jiyu Jingchen on the screen and spoke slowly, word by word. Jiyu Jingchen, if you want to destroy me, it won't be that easy. In this field, restoration is judged by skill, not by whose influence is greater. The meeting ended and I left the conference call, setting my phone down. Lu Xiang sat across from me, watching, and said, "Don't worry, with me here no one can touch you." I looked at him, a warmth stirring in my chest, and replied, "President Lu, thank you. No need," he said, looking at me. "I told you, you belong to me. I protect you. It's only right." My face flushed. I looked down, unable to meet his eyes. He smiled, then stood and left the dining room. I sat there, staring at my phone at Jiyu Jingchen's furious face, my gaze hardening. "Jiyu Jingchen, the mud you threw at me, I'll throw back at you bit by bit. If you want to destroy me, I'll start by destroying the Jiyu family's prized auction house. We'll see about that." Still, one question nagged at me. Why did Lu Xiang go so far to help me? He risked offending Jiyu Jingchen and used his own resources for someone who had no prior connection to him. What reason was he hiding that I didn't know about? In the afternoon, my phone received a text from an unknown number. "Su Qingyang, I'm Jiyu Nyanru. 7 this evening, VIP room 888 at Yunduan Club. I have something to tell you, come alone, don't bring anyone else. I looked at the message and smiled. The person herself had come looking for me. I replied okay and put my phone into my bag. Shia looked at me, face tense. Sister Sue, you can't go. That woman Jiyu Nyanru is definitely up to no good. This is a trap. I shook my head and picked up my coat. A trap? I just happened to want to meet her. Let's see what kind of skill she has that made the entire Jiyu family kick me out of the house for her. 7:00 p.m. Cloud Club, private room no 888. When I pushed the door open and went in, Jiyu Nyanru was sitting in the head seat, holding a glass of red wine, wearing a couture evening gown, several diamond necklaces around her neck. Two influencer-looking girls were clustered at her side, fawning over her with an endless stream of Sister Nyanru. When they saw me come in, she lifted her eyes, didn't stand up, didn't even move a muscle, adopting the air of the hostess. Oh, you're here, sit down. I didn't sit, I just stood where I was and looked at her. She waved her hand and the two girls immediately stood up, walked out of the private room and closed the door. It was just the two of us left. She sipped her red wine, looked at me and smiled triumphantly. Su Qingyang, do you hate me a lot? Hate me for taking your place, taking your brother, taking your status as the Jiyu family's eldest miss? I didn't speak, just watched her. She put down her glass, leaned forward slightly, and looked at me with pure mockery in her voice. Actually, I didn't plan to kick you out so quickly. After all, you were useful. You could help my brother with restorations and make him money, but I didn't expect you to be so clueless, daring to compete with me. Then I had no choice but to be ruthless. I finally spoke, my tone calm. The online smearing was arranged by you and Jiyu Jingchen. Not a question, a statement. She smiled more brightly, nodded, showing no attempt to hide it. Yes, it was me. Those forged pieces of evidence were made by people I hired. I bought the press releases, and my brother agreed. I wanted to ruin your reputation, make you unable to survive in this industry, make sure you can never recover. She leaned back in the chair, looking at me with utter disdain. Do you think your little restoration skills are something special? My brother said it. Without the Jiyu family to back you and give you resources, you wouldn't even get near the museum doors. Now that he's blacklisted you, no one in the industry dares hire you. Let's see how arrogant you can be now. She picked up a jewelry box on the table and opened it. Inside was my family's secret restoration manuscript. Oh right, I forgot to tell you that precious secret recipe of yours. I already have it. My brother has helped me apply to be recognized as an inheritor of intangible cultural heritage. It won't be long before I'm the sole inheritor of Su-style restoration techniques in this life. You'd better forget about ever touching this craft again. My fingertips moved slightly. That was the Su family's secret recipe passed down for 100 years, handed to me by my grandfather before he died, and I'd always kept it locked in the studio safe. I never expected them to have stolen it. She watched my reaction, smiling even more proudly, leaned close to my ear and lowered her voice. Also, did you really think I was the Jiyu family's long-lost daughter? Let me tell you the truth. The paternity test back then was forged by someone I hired. I'm not a Jiyu heiress at all. I saw that the Jiyu family is rich and wanted to get in to make a profit. She pulled back and looked at me, utterly fearless. So what if they find out? My brother trusts me now and protects me. No matter what I do, he'll fix it for me, and you have nothing left. What can you use to fight me? I looked at her and finally smiled. Done talking. She froze for a moment and looked at me. What do you mean? I raised my hand and shook the phone in it. The screen clearly displayed the recording interface. Everything you just said, I recorded it, including your admission that you forged the evidence, smeared me as a fraud, stole my family's secret recipe, and that you faked the paternity test and aren't a daughter of the Jiyu family. Jiyu Nyanru's face went pale. She lunged forward, trying to snatch my phone. Give me the phone, Su Qingyang, give me the phone. How dare you record me? I sidestepped and she missed. Falling onto the sofa, she looked up, eyes red, almost frantic. She grabbed the coffee cup on the table and hurled it at me. Hot coffee splashed all over me, burning my arm with a sharp sting. I watched her without speaking, picked up the pot of freshly brewed coffee on the table, walked to her and poured the whole pot over her head. The coffee ran down her hair, soaked her evening gown, ruined her delicate makeup and left her drenched and disheveled. She screamed, staring at me with nothing but hatred in her eyes. Su Qingyang, how dare you do this to me? I'll tell my brother, I'll have him destroy you. I slammed the empty coffee pot onto the table and looked at her, my voice icy. Go tell him, let him hear exactly what the precious little sister he protects really is. Let him know how ridiculous it is that he drove his own sister out of the house for a fraud. I turned and walked toward the private room door. At the doorway I stopped and looked back at her. Jiyu Nyanru, what you owe me, I will collect bit by bit everything. You and Jiyu Jingchen, you won't escape. After saying that, I pushed the door open and walked out. I got into the car and backed up the audio file several times, sending copies to my lawyer and to Xiao Xiao and uploading them to several cloud drives. Xiao Xiao, looking at the coffee stains on me, trembled with anger. Sister Su, that Jiyu Nyanru went too far. Let's release the recording now. Let the whole internet know she's a fraud. I shook my head and watched the night view outside the window. Not yet. This recording was only the beginning. What I wanted was not just Jiyu Nyanru's ruin. I wanted Jiyu Jingchen and her both to pay the proper price for everything they had done. I wanted Jiyu Jingchen to see with his own eyes how the precious sister he held in his palm had destroyed everything he had. Still, a question nagged at me. Jiyu Nyanru said she wasn't a member of the Jiyu family and that the paternity test was forged. So where was the real daughter of the Jiyu family? What really happened back then? That question had planted a seed in my mind. I knew there had to be a bigger secret hidden behind this matter. The day after returning from the Cloud Club, my lawyer called me. Ms. Su, the court has accepted our defamation suit against Jiyu Jingchen and Jiyu Nyanru as well as the copyright infringement suit. However, the Intangible Cultural Heritage Center has put our application on hold, saying Jiyu Jingchen submitted an earlier application and it needs to be verified first. Also, no one in the industry dares to cooperate with us. All the project parties are afraid of offending Jiyu Jingchen. I leaned back in my studio chair, my tone calm. I understand. That's fine. If they don't dare to hire me, I'll find people who do. After hanging up, I opened my computer and went to the Palace Museum's Institute for Cultural Relics Restoration website. The homepage featured a prominent notice: a damaged Song Dynasty fragment of autumn clears over streams and hills from the Palace Museum collection, due to severe damage, is now soliciting restoration plans nationwide to find experts capable of completing the restoration. This painting is a celebrated masterpiece by the famous Song Dynasty painter Guo Shi, a national first-class cultural relic that returned from overseas 10 years ago, but it is heavily damaged. 1/3 of the image is missing and there is severe mold and insect damage. Top domestic experts have inspected it and none dared to take on the restoration project, because once a restoration fails and the national treasure is damaged, no one can bear that responsibility. I read the announcement and my eyes lit up. This was my chance. The Forbidden City is the highest hall of the country's cultural heritage world. If I could win this project and complete the restoration of this national treasure, Jiyu Jingchen's ban would collapse on its own. I took a deep breath and immediately began preparing the restoration plan. I searched through all the literature on autumn clearings in the mountain stream, studied all of Guo Shi's surviving works, as well as Song Dynasty painting pigments, paper, and mounting techniques, pulling 2 all-nighters in a row to produce a complete, foolproof restoration plan. Early on the 3rd morning, I took the plan to the Palace Museum's Conservation Institute. The front desk checked my appointment information and escorted me to the experts' conference room. When I pushed the door open, the room was filled with a dozen or so of the nation's top ancient painting and calligraphy restoration experts, all leading figures in the field, along with the director of the Palace Museum. When they saw me come in, everyone's gaze fell on me, full of scrutiny and doubt. The director looked at me and spoke. Comrade Su Qingyang, we know you, but the negative news about you online has been spreading like wildfire, and this painting autumn clearing in the mountain streams is a national treasure-level artifact. Its restoration is extremely difficult, so we have to be cautious. Are you sure you can complete this restoration? An older expert beside him followed, his tone skeptical. Xiao Su, it's not that we don't believe you. Our institute's senior experts have studied this painting for years and haven't dared to touch it. You're only 30, can you be that confident? Besides, the Jiyu Group has made it clear, anyone who hires you is opposing them. The Palace Museum must take that influence into account as well. I looked at them, my voice calm without a trace of panic. Teachers, Director. The negative news online is maliciously fabricated rumors by Jiyu Jingchen. I've already filed a lawsuit in court, and there will be results soon. I'm not here today to argue about rumors, I'm here to show you my restoration plan and my craftsmanship. I lifted my hand and Shia connected my laptop to the projector. On the screen appeared the restoration plan I had prepared for autumn clearing in the mountain streams. For the next hour, I explained every detail of the plan, from surface cleaning, mold treatment, and insect damage repair to filling in missing parts, artificially aging them, and finally mounting the work. For each step I had detailed contingency plans. I even specified the pigments and paper formulas for the restoration down to the milligram. I also presented examples of Song Dynasty fragmentary paintings of the same era that I had previously restored, along with complete before and after comparisons and acceptance reports. In the conference room, the skeptical senior experts straightened in their seats one by one. The doubt in their eyes gradually turned to shock, and finally to admiration. When my explanation ended, I closed the presentation and looked at everyone present. That's my proposal. Words alone aren't proof. I brought my tools today and want to demonstrate my restoration skills to you here. The dean and several senior experts exchanged glances and nodded. Good, we'll give you a fragment of Song Dynasty paper with mildew and damage. Restore it here and let us see. The staff quickly brought the restoration tools and a fragment of Song paper and placed them on the table. I sat down, took a deep breath and began to work. Everyone gathered around, holding their breath as they watched my movements. Each motion was precise: cleaning, removing mildew, filling the paper, matching the color, all done in one continuous flow without an unnecessary gesture. An hour later I set down my brush. The once damaged, mildewed fragment had been restored to its original condition. The patched areas fit the original paper seamlessly, the colors completely consistent, with no trace of repair even under a magnifying glass. Thunderous applause broke out immediately. The elderly expert who had doubted me earlier looked at the restored fragment with tears in his eyes and gripped my hand. Excellent, truly excellent, Sue, your craftsmanship is extraordinary. We didn't recognize your talent. We can trust you with restoring this autumn clearings in streams and mountains. The dean looked at me and smiled. Comrade Su Qingyang, on behalf of the Palace Museum, we hereby formally appoint you as Chief Restorer for the Autumn Clearings in Streams and Mountains Restoration Project, granting you the highest authority. You will personally assemble the restoration team and all resources will fully cooperate with you. I bowed deeply to them. Thank you, teachers, thank you, Dean. I will not let you down. I will restore this national treasure perfectly. After leaving the Palace Museum and getting into the car, Shia nearly jumped with excitement. Sister Sue, we did it, we really did it, we won the Palace Museum project. Jiyu Jingchen's ban is useless now. I looked at Tianmenmen out the window and couldn't help smiling. Jiyu Jingchen, did you think banning me would leave me with nowhere to turn? You're naive. In this industry, craft and strength ultimately matter. You can block my resources, but you cannot block my skill. From today on, I am your strongest rival. I will topple the Jiyu auction house piece by piece. At that moment my phone rang. Jiyu Jingchen, I answered. His voice on the line was icy and furious. Su Qingyang, well done, you actually went to the Palace Museum to oppose me. I take it you don't want to live. I'll tell you, you will never complete this project. I will make sure you can't even enter the Palace Museum gates. I smiled. Jiyu Jingchen, the game has only just begun, wait and see. I will make you lose utterly. After hanging up, I tossed the phone aside. Jiyu Jingchen, bring it on, I'm ready. Half a month later, Jiyu Auction House's big spring sale was held at the Jiangcheng International Hotel. This auction was Gu's most important event of the year. Jiyu Jingchen spent tens of millions on promotion, inviting the nation's top tycoons and collectors. The centerpiece was waiting to cross the Autumn River by Yuan dynasty painter Wu Zhen, estimated at 200 million yuan and hailed as this year's most significant discovery in the domestic art market. For this auction, Jiyu Jingchen recruited several industry experts to endorse it and hyped the painting wildly, claiming it was a national treasure lost for centuries. I received an invitation to the auction, issued to me as a specially invited expert of the Palace Museum. Xiaoxia looked at the invitation, her face tense. Sister Sue, should we go? Jiyu Jingchen definitely doesn't have good intentions, could this be a trap? I smiled and put the invitation into my bag. Go, why not? He spent so much money putting this event together. If I don't go and take it apart a little, wouldn't that be disrespectful? On the day of the auction I wore a black suit, brought Xiaoxia, and walked into the venue. It was packed with prominent figures from around the country. Reporters were squeezed into the back rows and camera flashes flickered constantly. Jiyu Jingchen stood on the stage delivering a speech. When he saw me enter, his expression immediately darkened, a vicious gleam in his eyes. I ignored him and found a seat in the front row. When the speech ended, the auction formally began. The first few lots sold smoothly and the atmosphere grew increasingly heated. Finally it was time for the highlight of the auction, a Yuan dynasty work by Wu Zhen, Autumn River Waiting to Ferry. The usher pushed the painting onto the stage and lifted off the dust cover. The auctioneer took the microphone and spoke excitedly. Distinguished guests, the next lot is the centerpiece of tonight's auction, an authentic masterpiece. Attributed to the famed Yuan dynasty painter Wu Zhen, Autumn River Waiting to Ferry, verified as genuine by several authoritative experts. Opening bid, 80 million, minimum increments, 1 million. The room erupted. Bidders raised their paddles in rapid succession and the price shot up to 180 million. Jiyu Jingchen sat in the principal seat below the stage, a proud smile playing at his lips as he watched the feverish bidding, looking certain of victory. Just as the auctioneer was about to bring down the gavel, I raised my hand. Wait. The hall fell silent in an instant. Every eye turned to me. The auctioneer looked at me and asked, "Do you have a question?" I stood, took the microphone, and my voice carried clearly through the room. I am Su Qingyang, a specially appointed restorer at the Palace Museum's Cultural Relics Restoration Institute. I believe this Autumn River Waiting to Ferry is not an original by Wu Zhen but a high-quality forgery. The moment I finished, the venue erupted, conversations burst out as people whispered and debated. Jiyu Jingchen sprang to his feet, staring at me with pure rage and shouting, "Su Qingyang, what nonsense are you spouting? This painting has been authenticated as genuine by multiple authoritative experts. You're deliberately causing trouble and maliciously smearing Jiyu auction." I looked at him calmly. "Mr. Jiyu, whether this is nonsense or not, facts will speak for themselves. Ladies and gentlemen, I will now point out 3 forgery flaws in this painting. Each one alone is enough to prove it a fake." I raised my hand, and Xiaoxia connected my laptop to the venue's projector. High-resolution detail images of the painting appeared on the screen. Holding the microphone, I pointed to the first detail on the image and began. The first flaw, the pigments. Wu Zhen was a Yuan dynasty painter. Ink used in Yuan inkwash paintings was pine soot ink, stable, aging gracefully, and not prone to diffuse bleeding. The ink in this painting is modern industrial ink. Under magnification you can see a distinct granularity and chemical additives that only exist in modern times, absolutely impossible in the Yuan era. I paused and switched to the next image, showing the mounting details of the painting. The second flaw, the mounting craftsmanship. The mounting uses a brocade that appears to be Qing dynasty, which might seem fine at first glance, but the adhesive contains modern preservatives and the mounting technique is done by modern machinery, not the hand mounting methods of the Yuan period. Mr. Jiyu, you aren't going to tell me a Yuan painting would be mounted by modern machines, are you? The collectors in the audience frowned one by one, looking at the painting on stage with suspicion. Jiyu Jingchen's face flushed red and pale in turns, his whole body trembling, unable to utter a single word. I continued, pointing at the seal in the image. The third flaw, and the most fatal one, is the seal. The seal on this painting uses modern chemical seal paste, whereas Yuan dynasty seal paste was hand-mixed from cinnabar and castor oil. The composition is completely different. More importantly, the seal carving technique on this seal has 3 obvious differences compared with the seals on authentic works by Wu Zhen. It's a copy of the genuine seal, but the imitation is riddled with flaws. I switched to the final picture. The seal from this painting, shown side by side with the seal from the Palace Museum's authenticated Wu Zhen work. The differences were obvious at a glance. Each of the 3 flaws I just pointed out is enough on its own to prove that this painting is a modern high-quality forgery. GU Auction placed a forgery on the block as a national treasure, deceiving all the collectors. I don't know whether Mr. GU did this deliberately, or whether your authentication team simply lacks the ability to tell real from fake. After speaking, I set the microphone down and sat back in my seat. The room fell deathly silent, then erupted into even more intense chatter. After a few seconds, the wealthy bidders who had raised their paddles earlier put them down on the spot, faces sullen. What, it's a fake? GU Auction is such a rip-off. Almost spent 200 million on a fake. Ridiculous. Several authentication experts immediately came on stage with magnifying glasses to inspect the painting. After more than 10 minutes, the lead senior expert looked up, face ashen, and addressed the hall. After our on-site re-examination, what teacher Su Qingyang said is completely accurate. This autumn river waiting to cross is indeed a modern high-quality forgery. The room instantly erupted. The bidders who had just offered confronted Gu Jingchen, demanding an explanation. Gu Jingchen, you actually sold us a fake. You owe us an explanation. What kind of so-called top auction house can't even tell real from fake? Who would work with you again? The scene descended into chaos. Reporters went berserk, firing flashes at Gu Jingchen without pause. The auction collapsed completely and could not continue. Gu Jingchen stood amid the chaotic crowd, his face deathly pale. Swaying and nearly falling, his bodyguards tried to steer him toward a back exit. I happened to be standing there. He saw me, his eyes red and looking almost insane, lunged at me, gnashing his teeth. Su Qingyang, you did this on purpose. You deliberately came to ruin my event. I looked at him, smiled, and pulled up the chat log on my phone between him and the owner of the forgery workshop, which clearly showed he had paid 2 million yuan to commission this high-quality fake, intending to pass it off as genuine at auction. Whether I did it on purpose or not isn't important, Mr. GU. What's important is that you sold a forgery to make money. That's fact. I've already sent this chat log to the Cultural Relics Bureau and the police. Prepare to be investigated. Gu Jingchen stared at the chat log on my phone, his face drained of color, and he collapsed to the ground. I walked past him, took Xiaoxia with me, and left the auction venue. Once we were in the car, Xiaoxia was so excited she was in tears. Sister Su, you're amazing. When you exposed the fake in public, Gu Jingchen went totally green. It was so satisfying. He deserved that. I smiled and looked out the window. This was only the first slap in the face. Gu Jingchen, you still owe me a lot. Next, I'll dismantle every one of your cards piece by piece and make you pay the price for everything you've done. The news of GU Auction's spring sale collapsing dominated trending topics across the internet that same day. GU Auction sells hundreds of millions worth of forgeries. Su Qingyang exposes forgery in public. Both shot to #1. The web was full of scorn for Gu Jingchen and GU Auction. Netizens applauded, calling me the Cultural Relics world's hero who fights fakes. The stock of the GU family's cultural company hit the daily limit down that day, wiping out over 1 billion yuan in market value. The Cultural Relics Bureau and the police officially opened investigations into GU's auction house for allegedly auctioning forgeries. Gu Jingchen was in a complete mess, having to deal with the police probe, pacify furious clients, and handle the company's stock crisis. As for me, I was in the Forbidden City's restoration studio leading a team and concentrating on restoring autumn clearings in the mountain stream. That morning my lawyer called. Miss Su, the Intangible Cultural Heritage Center got back to me. It says Gu Jingchen submitted an application to them as an inheritor of the Su-style restoration technique half a month ago. And he even turned in your family's secret recipe manuscript, falsely claiming the technique is ancestral to the Gu family and that Gu Nianru is the sole inheritor. The center was about to accept the application, but now they've suspended their review because of the Gu auction scandal. My fingertips tightened slightly. The Su-style restoration technique is an intangible cultural heritage passed down in my Su family for over 100 years. The secret recipe manuscript was handed to me by my grandfather himself. It's the Su family heirloom. Gu Jingchen and Gu Nianru actually dared to steal my manuscript and claim it was ancestral to the Gu family, trying to seize my status as the heritage inheritor. Shameless to the extreme, I took a deep breath and said, Lawyer Wang, Please prepare all the evidence of inheritance. We're going to the Intangible Cultural Heritage Center and the Copyright Bureau right now. I want to take back what belongs to me. All right, Miss Sue, I'll come to you right now." Half an hour later, Lawyer Wang arrived at the Palace Museum with all the evidence. I brought the original manuscript of the ancestral secret formula, my grandfather's and father's intangible cultural heritage inheritor certificates, my restoration practice works from childhood to present, and the acceptance reports for the national-level restoration projects I've handled over the years, an entire box of evidence, and went to the National Intangible Cultural Heritage Protection Center. The director of the Intangible Cultural Heritage Center personally received us. I laid out all the evidence before him and explained the situation in detail. "Director, the Sue-style mounting and restoration technique is my family's ancestral intangible cultural heritage, passed down for over a century. My grandfather and father were both national-level inheritors of this technique. What Jiyu Jingchen and Jiyu Nyanru stole was my family's ancestral secret formula manuscript. Their claim that it is a Jiyu family heirloom is entirely fabricated and maliciously steals my intellectual property." Lawyer Wang placed the application materials submitted by Jiyu Jingchen in front of the director. "Director, all the inheritance records in Jiyu Jingchen's application materials are forged. They cannot produce any evidence of inheritance older than 10 years, whereas Miss Sue here has complete century-long inheritance records and inheritor certificates from several generations. The chain of evidence is intact." The director carefully reviewed all the evidence, his expression growing increasingly grave. He immediately summoned the staff responsible for reviews and said, "Immediately reject the intangible cultural heritage inheritor application submitted by Jiyu Jingchen. Void all the materials they submitted. At the same time, prioritize Comrade Su Qingyan's application for review, complete the assessment as soon as possible, and issue the certificate." The staff immediately nodded and went to handle it. The director looked at me and smiled. "Teacher Su, I'm sorry, there was a lapse in our review process and we nearly let wrongdoers find a loophole. We've all seen your skill. You are unquestionably the rightful inheritor of the Su-style restoration techniques." I looked at him and nodded. "Thank you, Director." After leaving the Intangible Cultural Heritage Center, we went to the Municipal Copyright Bureau. I submitted a copyright registration application for the family secret recipe manuscript along with evidence that Jiyu Jingchen and Jiyu Nyanru had stolen my manuscript and infringed my copyright. The Copyright Bureau completed the review that same day, issued me a copyright registration certificate, and accepted my infringement lawsuit. With that, I fully reclaimed my status as the inheritor of the intangible heritage and the legitimate copyright to the family secret recipe. Jiyu Jingchen and Jiyu Nyanru, who tried to take everything from me, became a complete joke. The next day, the Intangible Cultural Heritage Center issued an announcement formally rejecting Jiyu Jingchen's application and simultaneously granting me the title National Representative Inheritor of Su-style mounting and restoration techniques. Once the announcement was released, the whole internet was once again in an uproar. Netizens flooded the comments. "So Teacher Su is the real inheritor of the intangible cultural heritage. Jiyu Jingchen and that fake heiress are shameless. They actually stole someone's ancestral secret recipe. This is hilarious. They stole someone's property and tried to steal their identity, then got slapped down on the spot. So satisfying. Teacher Su is amazing, not only skilled, but so tough. Love it." Holding the Intangible Cultural Heritage Inheritor Certificate and the Copyright Certificate, I submitted supplementary evidence to the court, demanding that Jiyu Jingchen and Jiyu Nyanru immediately return my ancestral secret recipe manuscript and compensate me for economic and reputational losses totaling 50 million yuan. The court issued subpoenas the same day, summoning Jiyu Jingchen and Jiyu Nyanru to appear. After receiving the subpoena, Jiyu Jingchen completely lost his mind. He sent people to my studio to steal my evidence and destroy the original recipe manuscript. But my pre-installed surveillance cameras recorded the whole thing. I handed the surveillance footage directly to the police. The police opened a case against Jiyu Jingchen's aide and the people he sent on suspicion of theft and violation of trade secrets, and they were placed under criminal detention on the spot. Another of Jiyu Jingchen's key aides was taken in. He is now completely alone. Xia looked at me and smiled. Sister Su, we're rolling in it now. Jiyu Jingchen is like a grasshopper after autumn. He won't be able to hop for many days. I looked at the inheritor certificate for intangible cultural heritage in my hand and smiled. This is still not enough. What Jiyu Jingchen owes me is far more than this. I will make him realize that what he stole was never merely a secret recipe manuscript, it was a height he will never reach in his lifetime. Next, I will make sure he has no foothold left in the entire industry. Let him taste what it's like to be blacklisted by the whole field. A week later, the National Cultural Relics and Artworks Industry Annual Summit was held at the Shanghai International Convention and Exhibition Center. This is the highest-level summit in the country's cultural relics and artworks industry, attended by thousands of industry experts, museum directors, auction house owners, collectors, and many media reporters. I am the special keynote speaker invited to this summit, scheduled to go on second. The venue is packed. I sit in the guest section, surrounded by industry titans. Everyone greets me first, their eyes full of admiration and respect. In a corner of the hall sits Jiyu Jingchen. He came too, with only 2 attendants at his side, all alone. No one wants to sit with him, no one greets him, everyone avoids him like the plague. He looks at me, his eyes carrying malice and a trace of despair. Obviously, he knows this summit is his last chance. If he cannot restore his reputation at this summit, his Jiyu auction house will be finished for good. The summit officially begins. After the first guest finishes speaking, the host walks onto the stage, microphone in hand, smiling as he speaks. Next, please join me in a warm round of applause to welcome Ms. Su Qingyang, National Inheritor of the Su Style Mounting and Restoration Techniques, specially appointed restoration expert at the Palace Museum, known in the industry as the hand that restores a painting's bones. To the stage. Thunderous applause fills the hall, lasting for a very long time. I stood up, adjusted my suit, took the microphone and walked onto the stage. Standing there looking at the thousands of eyes below, I took a deep breath and began. Esteemed seniors, fellow colleagues, hello, I am Su Qingyang. Today the topic of my presentation is innovations and applications of non-destructive restoration techniques for ancient books and paintings. Over the next 40 minutes I explained in detail the latest technique I developed, the world's first non-destructive restoration method for ancient books and paintings. This technique solves a century-old problem in the field. Without removing mounts, it can clean, defungus, and restore ancient books and paintings, preserving the artifacts themselves to the greatest extent and avoiding any secondary damage. I also presented a Song Dynasty fragmentary painting restored with this method, along with complete experimental data and comparisons to traditional restoration techniques. The advantages were obvious at a glance. The experts and peers in the audience sat up straight, their eyes full of shock and admiration, and warm applause broke out from time to time. Jiyu Jingchen, sitting in the corner, grew increasingly sullen. He finally realized that the technique in my hands was far more powerful than he had imagined. The secret recipe he stole was only the most basic thing of the Su family. At the end of the speech, I changed tone, looked at everyone in the audience and began. Having finished the technical part, I want to talk to you about the most serious chaos in our industry right now. That is the rampant circulation of forgeries, theft of intellectual property, and the malicious blacklisting of colleagues. The room went silent instantly. Everyone's gaze focused on me. I raised my hand and Xia pressed the projector switch. On the screen appeared complete evidence that Gu's auction house, under Jiyu Cultural Group, had repeatedly auctioned forgeries over the past 3 years. Buyer's appraisal reports, police case filing notices, and chat logs between Jiyu Jingchen and the counterfeit workshop. What you see now is the full evidence that Gu's auction, part of Jiyu Cultural Group, has repeatedly auctioned high-quality fakes over the past 3 years, deceiving consumers. Just half a month ago they tried to auction a 2 million high-quality fake as a 200 million national treasure, and the police have opened an investigation. I paused, switched to the next slide. which showed the rejection notice for GU Jingchen's application to be recognized as an inheritor of the non-material cultural heritage for stealing my family's restoration secret formula, and the court's case acceptance notice. The second matter, GU Jingchen and GU Nyanru stole my Su family's ancestral manuscript of restoration secrets, falsely claiming it as a GU family heirloom and attempting to take my status as a recognized inheritor of intangible cultural heritage. That application was rejected by the Heritage Center, and I have sued them for copyright infringement. The court has accepted the case. Then I presented the chat records in which GU Jingchen vowed to blacklist me across the industry, along with evidence of his threats to various clients forbidding them to work with me. The third matter, because of personal grudges, GU Jingchen declared an industry-wide blacklist against me, threatening all clients not to cooperate with me in an attempt to destroy my career. Such behavior severely undermines fair competition in the industry and poisons the professional atmosphere. I looked at the audience and, word by word, spoke clearly so my voice reached the whole hall. I am not speaking here out of personal vengeance. I am telling you this because our industry depends on integrity, on craftsmanship, on respect for cultural relics, not on stealing, robbing, auctioning forgeries to cheat people or using power to blacklist peers. Here I formally announce all my patented techniques and restoration skills are permanently prohibited from being used by GU Cultural Group and any enterprises that have deep cooperative ties with GU's auction. At the same time, I call on colleagues across the industry to jointly resist the auctioning of forgeries, to resist malicious competition, and to protect the healthy environment of our industry. The moment I finished, the hall erupted in thunderous applause that lasted a very long time, almost shaking the roof off. Colleagues in the audience gave me thumbs up one after another. Well said, Teacher Su, we support you. We should have resisted GU's auction long ago. How many fakes have they sold? How many people have they cheated? We hereby announce the immediate termination of all cooperation with GU's auction. Instantly, the 27 institutions present announced on the spot that they would terminate cooperation with GU's auction. The president of the National Association of Cultural Relics and Art spoke up, came on stage with a microphone and declared, after an emergency discussion, our association has decided to suspend GU's auction's membership in the association, to put GU Jingchen on the industry's blacklist and to organize industry-wide resistance. Warm applause broke out again. I looked toward a corner of the hall. GU Jingchen sat there, face pale, trembling, his cup smashed on the floor. He couldn't stay seated any longer. He suddenly stood up, bowed his head, and fled the hall in disgrace under everyone's gaze, completely losing face. After the speech, I stepped down from the stage and was immediately surrounded by a group of museum directors and auction house owners. Teacher Su, our museum has a batch of old paintings. Would you help restore them? Teacher Su, our auction house wants you to be chief appraisal expert. Name your salary. Teacher Su, we want to cooperate with you to promote your non-destructive restoration technique. I responded with a smile to each of them and exchanged contact information. Companies that had previously avoided working with me because of GU Jingchen's blacklisting were now clamoring to collaborate. With a single speech, I completely shattered GU Jingchen's ban and executed a reverse boycott against him. Now, no one in the entire industry dared to cooperate with GU Auctions. GU Jingchen's GU Auctions had been driven to the brink of a cliff. Sitting in the car, Xiaoxia looked at me, trembling with excitement. Sister Su, you're incredible. GU Jingchen is now like a rat in the street. Everyone's calling to beat him down. We've finally gotten our revenge. I smiled and looked at the message from lawyer Wang on my phone. GU Group stock had hit the limit down again, marking 5 consecutive limit downs, vaporizing tens of billions in market value. Several banks had already filed lawsuits with the court demanding GU Group repay loans early and seeking asset preservation. GU Jingchen's good days were over. I leaned against the seat back and stared out the car window. GU Jingchen, you once vowed to blackball me across the entire industry. Now taste what it's like to be blackballed by the whole industry. How does it feel? This is only the interest. What you owe me, what you owe my parents, I will take back in full, principal and interest. After the industry summit, GU Group plunged into utter despair. The industry-wide boycott, banks calling in loans, consecutive stock limit downs, and the police opening investigations pushed GU Group's cash flow to the verge of collapse. In order to turn things around, GU Jingchen pinned all his hopes on the National Treasury's return 10 billion special auction he had been preparing for a long time. He publicly claimed that this special auction would feature dozens of nationally treasured artifacts repatriated from overseas, with a total estimated value exceeding 10 billion. If the auction succeeded, GU Group could be resurrected. For this auction, he spared no expense, pulling strings and assembling lots. He even took reckless risks. Meanwhile, I was in the restoration studio at the Palace Museum leading my team and smoothly advancing the restoration of autumn mists over mountain streams. That afternoon I received a call from an unfamiliar number. The voice on the other end was a man's, low and tense. "May I speak to Ms. Su Qingyang?" "This is she. Who is this?" "I am the former CFO of the GU family conglomerate. My name is Li Mo. I have complete evidence that GU Jingchen committed financial fraud, embezzled clients' margin deposits, and even smuggled cultural relics. I know you have a grudge against GU Jingchen, and I want to hand this evidence over to you." I froze for a moment, then reacted. "Why are you helping me?" "Helping you? I'm avenging myself." Li Mo's voice carried a strong hatred. "I followed GU Jingchen for 8 years, helped him make Gushi Auction the industry leader, and then he found out I knew about his embezzlement and smuggling of cultural relics. He fired me, confiscated all my shares and year-end bonus, and banned me from the industry, so I can't find a job. My wife divorced me, my family is ruined now, all because of GU Jingchen. I want him to pay." I took a deep breath and spoke. "Okay, where do you want to meet?" "In half an hour at the Bund Riverside Park in their pavilion. I'll meet only you, no one else." "Okay, I'll be there on time." After hanging up, Xia looked at me, visibly tense. "Miss Su, could this be a trap? GU Jingchen is cornered now, he'll do anything." I shook my head. "Probably not. If it's a trap, he wouldn't use this method. Moreover, even if it is a trap, I'll go. If I can get evidence of GU Jingchen's smuggling of cultural relics, I can send him to prison for good." I called Lu Shiyang and told him about this. Lu Shiyang was quiet for a few seconds, then spoke. "I'll have my 2 bodyguards accompany you and wait nearby to ensure your safety. If anything happens, call me immediately." "Okay, thank you, Lu Shiyang. You don't need to thank me." His voice softened a little. "Stay safe." Half an hour later I arrived at the Bund Riverside Park. In the pavilion sat a man in a black coat, wearing a hat and a mask, looking worn out. Li Mo. When he saw me come in, he stood up, scanned the surroundings cautiously, and sighed with relief once he confirmed no one was around. "Miss Su, you're here." I nodded, sitting opposite him. "Where's the stuff?" Li Mo pulled out a secured USB drive from his bag, placed it on the table and pushed it toward me. "Inside are the GU Group's complete financial records for nearly the past 3 years, plus all evidence of GU Jingchen's financial fraud, embezzlement of client deposits and tax evasion. Most importantly, there's complete evidence of his collusion with overseas smuggling rings to smuggle in cultural relics, including chat records, bank flows, a list of smuggled artifacts and records of bribing customs officers." He looked at me with a gaze full of resentment. "GU Jingchen, to raise funds for a 100 billion auction, colluded with overseas smuggling rings to smuggle in a large number of relics, barred from leaving the country, evaded taxes, and the amount involved is several hundred million. If you hand over these records, GU Jingchen will be finished and the GU Group will go bankrupt." I picked up the USB drive and held it in my hand. "Why are you so sure I'll deliver these? Aren't you afraid I'll hand them over to GU Jingchen in exchange for something?" Li Mo smiled and shook his head. "No, the whole industry knows you and GU Jingchen are dead set against each other. You're the only person who can take GU Jingchen down. These records are useless if handed to anyone else, they're useful only if you have them." He stood, looking at me. "I've handed you the stuff, I should go. GU Jingchen's people have been looking for me. I hope you'll do as promised and let GU Jingchen pay the price he deserves." After speaking, he turned and strode out of, quickly disappearing into the park. I held the USB drive and got into a car, back to the hotel. At the hotel, I plugged the USB drive into the computer and entered the password Li Mo gave me. Sure enough, The USB contained complete evidence of Jiyu Jichen's illegal crimes, itemized and ironclad. The embezzlement of client auction deposits alone totaled 1.2 billion yuan, of which 800 million was used to fill the company's deficit, and the remaining 400 million was used to buy luxury houses, luxury cars, and various other luxuries for Jiyu Nyanru. There were also his chat records with the overseas smuggling ring, transfer statements, a list of smuggled cultural relics, clear as day, and even video evidence of him bribing customs officials. I stared at the evidence, my fingertips tightening slightly. Jiyu Jingchen, you risked everything to turn the tables and actually dared to smuggle cultural relics and bribe customs. This time we'll see how you run. I backed up all the evidence several times, one copy to my lawyer, one anonymous copy sent to the General Administration of Customs, the Economic Investigation Unit, and the Discipline Inspection Commission, and one I kept to release at his billion yuan special auction press conference. 3 days later, Jiyu Corporation's billion yuan National Treasure special auction press conference was held in the banquet hall of a 5-star hotel in the city center. Jiyu Jingchen invited all the mainstream media across the country, along with many tycoons and collectors, hoping to use the event to salvage his reputation and drum up momentum for the auction. The venue was lavishly decorated. Jiyu Jingchen stood on stage with a microphone, delivering a passionate speech about his billion yuan special event, painting grand profits for the audience and promising that anyone who followed him would make big money. Just as he reached his most fervent point, every guest and reporter's phone in the room vibrated at once. Each person received an anonymous text message containing a link with the complete evidence of Jiyu Jingchen's financial fraud, misappropriation of client deposits, smuggling of cultural relics and bribery. In an instant, the entire banquet hall erupted. Guests and reporters looked at the evidence on their phones, faces going ashen, and then all hell broke loose. What? Jiyu Jingchen actually smuggled cultural relics and bribed customs. He embezzled 1.2 billion of client deposits, our money. Could it have been misappropriated? He's been deceiving us. That so-called national treasure repatriation, it's all smuggled artifacts. That's a crime. Someone shouted first. Jiyu Jingchen, you liar, give us an explanation. Suddenly all the guests surged forward and surrounded Jiyu Jingchen, demanding an immediate explanation and the return of the deposits. The scene descended into chaos. Reporters snapped photos like mad, flashes going off continuously. At that moment the banquet hall doors were pushed open. Officers from the Customs Anti-Smuggling Bureau and the Economic Investigation Unit walked in, went straight to the stage and produced an arrest warrant. Jiyu Jingchen, we received a tip-off. You are suspected of smuggling cultural relics, bribery, embezzlement, and financial fraud. We are summoning you under the law. Please come with us for investigation. Jiyu Jingchen looked at the warrant in the officer's hands. His legs gave out and he collapsed to the floor. The police put handcuffs on him and escorted him out of the banquet hall. That afternoon, all of Jiyu Corporation's bank accounts were frozen. The Securities Regulatory Commission issued an announcement initiating an investigation into Jiyu Corporation for suspected financial fraud and insider trading. Jiyu Corporation's stock was hit with a continuous limit down, effectively delisting it. The company teetered on the brink of bankruptcy. That evening, I was in the studio with my team restoring paintings when the studio alarm suddenly went off. Lu Xian's 2 bodyguards sent to protect me burst in and told me, Miss Su, someone broke in and tried to destroy the artifacts. I stood up immediately and ran with the bodyguards to the restoration room. 2 masked men were swinging clubs and smashing the equipment in the restoration room, trying to destroy the painting stream and mountain in autumn's clear weather that was being restored. The bodyguards rushed them and subdued them within moments, pinning them to the ground. I called the police at once. Officers arrived soon and took the 2 men away. During interrogation, the 2 men confessed. Jiyu Jingchen, before being taken away, had paid them to come and destroy stream and mountain in autumn's clear weather to frame me and ruin my reputation, dragging me down with him. I handed the interrogation records and the surveillance footage from the scene to the police. Yet another piece of evidence against Jiyu Jingchen was added. Xiaoxia looked at the restoration room in utter disarray, her whole body trembling with anger. Jiyu Jingchen, that madman, He actually tried to destroy a national treasure, frame you, he's gone completely insane. I stared at the perfectly intact autumn clear after rain in the mountains and streams and my expression turned cold. Jiyu Jingchen, you really have leapt like a cornered dog. You think using such despicable tricks can drag me down with you? You're far too naive. The more you act like this, the more you prove you're afraid. Rest assured I will make you pay the most painful price for everything you've done. Your doom is coming soon. After Jiyu Jingchen was taken away by the police, the Jiyu family fell completely apart. His parents cried every day and tried every connection to get him out, but the charges against Jiyu Jingchen were numerous and the evidence irrefutable, so no one dared help. As for Jiyu Nyanru, she vanished without a trace. She took all the cash the Jiyu family had left and disappeared. Only then did Mr. and Mrs. Jiyu realize something was wrong and remember the evidence I had anonymously sent them earlier proving Jiyu Nyanru was not their biological daughter. They immediately went to the Forensic Identification Center and had a paternity test redone. On the day the results came out, Mr. and Mrs. Jiyu called me and cried their hearts out over the phone, saying they had wronged me. After raising a daughter for 20 years they had driven her out and treasured a fraud. I just listened coldly, didn't say a word and hung up. At the time they drove me out of the house and watched Jiyu Nyanru throw dirt on me without saying a single word. I should have anticipated today's outcome. That afternoon my lawyer called me. Miss Su, we've verified Jiyu Nyanru's identity. She's not some long-lost daughter of the Jiyu family at all. She's a member of an overseas scam ring that poses as wealthy heiresses to swindle money. She has already deceived several rich families before. I froze for a moment, then regained my senses. Of course it was a fraud. Lawyer Wang continued speaking. We also found that the agency that performed the paternity tests for Jiyu Nyanru and Jiyu family's parents was bribed by her. The test reports were forged. More importantly, we discovered that Jiyu Jingchen knew as early as 6 months ago that the paternity reports were fake and that Jiyu Nyanru was not his biological younger sister. My heart sank. The first major plot twist. Jiyu Jingchen had known all along that Jiyu Nyanru was fake. Then why did he still help Jiyu Nyanru drive me out of the house, even at the cost of ruining my career? Lawyer Wang continued. We found that Jiyu Jingchen pretended not to know because the fraud ring behind Jiyu Nyanru had access to many cultural relics overseas and could help him obtain smuggled artifacts to assemble items for a billion-yuan auction. He was using Jiyu Nyanru to get overseas relic resources. Also, he knew long ago that Jiyu Nyanru had taken the company's money, but for the sake of his plan he kept pretending not to know. I gripped my phone, my fingertips tightening slightly. So that's why, Jiyu Jingchen, you really are ruthless. For money for your company, even though you knew Jiyu Nyanru was a con, you still helped her, drove out the sister you raised for 20 years, and didn't hesitate to ruin her life. You are cold to the bone. Also, Lawyer Wang continued, we traced the city central hospital that delivered the Jiyu family's baby and checked the archived records. The Jiyu parents did give birth to a daughter that year, but she was taken by someone on the day she was born. The hospital's records were tampered with. We're investigating who took the child back then and where the child is now. I hung up the phone and sat in the studio chair, my mind in chaos. The Jiyu family's real daughter had been taken the day she was born. Where is she now? Who took her back then? Could this be related to Jiyu Nyanru or Jiyu Jingchen's father? At that moment my phone rang. It was Lu Xiang. Finished yet? I'm downstairs at your studio. I'll take you to dinner. I smiled and said, okay, I'll be right down. I went downstairs and got into Lu Xian's car. Seeing me exhausted, he reached over and rubbed my head. Exhausted? Her, the Jiyu Jingchen matter is nearly over. Don't put too much pressure on yourself. I looked at him, warmth flooding my heart, and said, Lu Xiang, thank you. You've been helping me all this time. If it weren't for you, I probably wouldn't have held on. He looked at me with gentle eyes. I said I'd protect you and I should. He paused, hesitated for a moment, then said, Qingyang, there's something I want to tell you. Actually, I've known you for a long time. I was stunned and stared at him. A long time? Didn't we only meet a few times at banquets before? He shook his head. No, your father, Su Zhenbang, was my father's mentor and the person my father admired most in his life. When your father got into trouble, My father wanted to help but was too late. After your father passed, my father kept looking for you for many years and finally found you 3 years ago, learning you were with the GU family. My head buzzed and went blank. My father Su Junbang was a top domestic collector and the inheritor of the Su-style restoration technique. 10 years ago he died in an accident after his company went bankrupt. I never imagined Lu Xian's father would have known my father, Lu Xiang continued. My father felt guilty for not being able to help your father, so he had me watch over you quietly when you were still with the GU family, and GU Jingchen profited from your skills. I wanted to help you leave, but my father said we had to respect your choice. Only when you were driven out did I dare to step forward openly to help. When I said if you're my wife, you won't have trouble, it wasn't a joke. I watched you for 3 years and have liked you for a long time. Tears instantly filled my eyes and I couldn't hold them back. So someone had been silently protecting me where I couldn't see. His help hadn't been without reason. Lu Xiang reached out, wiped my tears away, pulled me into his arms and whispered, "Qingyang, don't be afraid. From now on I'm here, no one will dare bully you again." I leaned against him and nodded. The grievances and exhaustion inside me all poured out at that moment. I finally understood why he would help me regardless of everything. It turned out the answer had been there all along. After dinner, Lu Xiang drove me back to the studio. Before I got out, he looked at me and said seriously, "Qingyang, I've already had people look into the matter of the GU family's biological daughter. We'll have results soon, don't worry. Whatever the outcome, I'll be by your side." I looked at him and nodded. Okay. Back in the studio, I sat in the chair and stared at my father's photo, my heart restless for a long time. "Father, can you see this? Those who harmed you, I will make them pay soon. Your daughter has not shamed you." Just then Lawyer Wang called me, his voice excited. "Miss Su, we've found something. We've located the GU family's biological daughter from back then." My heart leapt to my throat. "Where is she?" Lawyer Wang's voice trembled slightly. "Miss Su, the GU family's biological daughter from back then is you." Lawyer Wang's words struck me like a thunderclap. Exploding inside my head, I stood frozen, unable to come to my senses for a long moment. "Lawyer Wang, what did you say?" "Miss Su, I'm telling you, you are the biological daughter who was taken from the GU family back then." Lawyer Wang's voice was excited. "We found that it was GU Nianru's father, the leader of that fraud ring, who colluded with GU Jingchen's father, GU Hongyuan. They took you as a newborn from the hospital, abandoned you at an orphanage and falsified the hospital records. Because GU Hongyuan couldn't have a son, he took in GU Jingchen and passed him off as the GU family's son. We found the orphanage records from back then. You are the baby who was taken. We also obtained the parentage test reports between you and the GU family parents, confirming you share biological blood ties with them. You are the GU family's true eldest, miss." My hands were shaking uncontrollably, and my phone nearly slipped to the floor. The plot had a second major twist. I was actually the GU family's real biological daughter. I lived with the GU family for 20 years, they raised me for 20 years, yet they didn't know that I am actually their long-lost biological daughter, and they, because of a con artist who pretended to be their daughter, drove their real daughter out of the house, slandered her, and tried to ruin her life. How laughable, how ironic. I hung up the phone, sat in the chair, and stayed there the entire night. At dawn, I looked at the morning sun outside the window, took a deep breath, and my gaze hardened. Whoever I am Su Qingyang. I am the inheritor of the Su-style restoration techniques and a specially appointed restorer at the Palace Museum. The GU family's identity is worthless to me, but what they owe me, what they owe my parents, I must take back. Today is GU Jingchen's billion yuan national treasure auction, held on the same day as the National Treasure Repatriation Charity Auction co-hosted by the Palace Museum and me. Both auctions are at the National Exhibition and Convention Center, door-to-door, streamed live across the internet. Everyone is watching this ultimate showdown. At 9 in the morning, the auction officially began. Although GU Jingchen had been detained, his lawyer still pushed ahead and launched this billion yuan special auction. Only a few dozen people sat sparsely in that hall, mostly reporters looking for a story. No real collectors came. My auction hall, by contrast, was packed with the country's top collectors, tycoons, museum directors, and a live broadcast team from CCTV. The live stream already had hundreds of millions of viewers queued up. All the lots in my auction were items I personally restored, national treasures returning from overseas, and all proceeds would be donated to the Cultural Relics Protection Foundation to fund the repatriation of national treasures lost abroad. When the auction began, I, as organizer, went on stage to speak, standing there looking at everyone in the audience and the broadcast cameras. I took a deep breath and began. Distinguished guests, viewers, hello, I am Su Qingyang. Today's National Treasure Repatriation Charity Auction features national treasures lost overseas for many years that, through our restoration, have returned to the motherland's embrace. All proceeds will be used for the repatriation and protection of lost cultural relics. The audience burst into warm applause. The auction got underway. Every lot sparked fierce bidding and the sale totals soared. Meanwhile, the GU family's auction across the way was desolate. At the starting bid for the first lot, no one raised a paddle for ages. The scene was painfully awkward. Just then, the doors swung open and officials from the Customs Anti-Smuggling Bureau and the police walked in and immediately sealed the entire auction site. We received a tip-off that all lots in this auction are smuggled relics and high-quality forgeries. We are legally sealing the site. Nobody is to move and everyone will be investigated. Chaos erupted instantly. Reporters snapped photos frantically, and the live stream chat exploded. GU's billion-yuan auction was shut down by the police just 10 minutes after it began, completely collapsed. My auction, on the other hand, grew more intense. A single lot reached as high as 320 million yuan and the total exceeded 12 billion yuan, setting a record for domestic charity auctions. At the end of the auction, I went back on stage. The room fell silent at once. All eyes were on me, and live stream viewership surpassed 300 million. I looked out at the crowd and spoke. Today, besides the auction, there is one more thing I must make clear in front of everyone. I raised my hand, and a staff member switched on the projector. On the screen appeared the paternity test report between me and the GU parents, along with the complete chain of evidence of when I was taken away years ago. Many people know that I lived with the GU family for 20 years as their adopted daughter. Just half a month ago, I discovered the truth. I'm not the GU family's adopted daughter who cares for the household. I'm the GU family's biological daughter who was taken away back then. I am the true eldest miss of the GU family. The room instantly erupted, and the live stream exploded. I continued, revealing the entire truth, how GU Hongyuan colluded with a fraud ring to take newborn me and dump me in an orphanage, how they brought in GU Jingchen to impersonate the GU family's son, and how GU Nyanru pretended to be an heiress to swindle money. GU Jingchen knew that GU Nyanru was a fraud, yet for his own gain he helped her. He drove me, his biological sister, out of the house, smeared me, even tried to ruin my life and destroy national treasures. He and his father GU Hongyuan jointly framed my adoptive father Su Zhenbang, leading to the Su family's ruin and my adoptive father's accidental death. I have handed all the evidence to the police. No sooner had I finished than the doors to the venue were pushed open. The GU parents walked in. They looked at me on the stage, their faces full of tears and remorse, and immediately knelt on stage, bowing deeply to me 3 times. Yang, we're sorry. Dad, Mama, sorry, we were blind and drove you out, made you suffer so much. Mom and Dad were wrong, please forgive us. The hall fell silent. Everyone watched. I looked at them kneeling on the floor and felt nothing. You don't need to apologize to me. My name is Su Qingyang. I am Su Zhenbang's daughter and the inheritor of Su-style restoration techniques. I have no interest in the title of GU family's eldest miss. I paused, then looked at the camera in the audience and spoke each word. From today on, I, Su Qingyang, have no relation to the GU family. Everyone who harmed me will pay the price they deserve. With that, I turned and walked off the stage. Thunderous applause broke out and lasted for a long time. That day, the hashtag #SuQingyan is the real GU heir shot to the top of trending searches. People across the internet rallied for me and condemned the GU family for being blind. The police issued a statement, filing an investigation into GU Hongyuan for suspected child trafficking, false accusation and framing, and intentional homicide, and arrested him on the spot. Another charge was added to Ji Jingchen's list of crimes. He now faced the harshest penalties the law could impose. The auction concluded successfully, and I was awarded the title Outstanding Contributor to Cultural Relic Protection by the State Administration of Cultural Heritage. Stepping out of the convention center, Liu Xiang stood at the door waiting for me. He looked at me and smiled, opening his arms. I ran to him and threw myself into his embrace. Laughing with joy, he held me and whispered in my ear, "Qingyang, congratulations, complete and total victory." I leaned against him and nodded. I knew I had won this battle, won completely. The day after the auction, GU Corporation officially announced bankruptcy and liquidation. This once glorious industry giant collapsed overnight. GU Hongyuan was arrested by the police, and all of the GU family's assets were frozen by judicial order. Overnight the GU parents' hair went white. They waited beneath my studio every day, begging to see me, begging for my forgiveness. I never saw them even once. When they drove me out and watched me being bullied by GU Nyanru without saying a word, they should have known some harms once done can never be mended. That morning my lawyer called me. "Miss Su, we just got word from the detention center. GU Jingchen has recanted. Not only does he deny all his crimes, his forged evidence, and claims you ordered him to do everything, he says you were involved in smuggling and fabricating artifacts, and that you framed him and GU Nyanru to steal the intangible heritage inheritor status. He wants to drag you down with him." I smiled a little, not surprised at all. People like GU Jingchen, when backed into a corner, will do desperate things and bite back. I understand. Lawyer Wang, please hand over the authentication report on his forged evidence and the full chain of evidence for all his crimes to the prosecution. If he tries to drag me down, it will only make his crimes worse. "Alright Miss Su, I'll handle it now." After hanging up, Liu Xiang came over and handed me a cup of warm water. "Don't be upset. GU Jingchen won't be able to act up for long." I took the cup and smiled. "I'm not angry, I just find him ridiculous. At this point he still thinks he can drag me down." Just then my phone rang again. It was the airport police station. "Is this MS Su Qingyang?" "This is the airport police. At the international terminal we caught GU Nyanru trying to flee the country, along with her father, Su Hongli, the ringleader of that fraud gang. They had taken the remaining funds of the GU family and were about to flee abroad, but we intercepted them." My eyes lit up. GU Nyanru had finally been caught. Su Hongli is willing to fully confess in exchange for a reduced sentence and has revealed everything from back then. He says there is something very important he needs to tell you in person. Would you like to come over? "Yes, I'll be there now." After hanging up, I went to the airport police station with Lawyer Wang. In the interrogation room, Su Hongli sat in a chair, hair streaked with grey, his face haggard, with none of the swagger he'd had as the head of a fraud ring. When he saw me, he looked up with guilt and fear in his eyes. "Miss Su, I'm sorry. What happened back then? I was led astray. I wronged you and your adoptive father, Su Zhenbang." I looked at him, my tone icy. "Tell me everything that happened back then, from start to finish, in detail." He nodded and recounted everything from those years. The third dramatic plot twist. 10 years ago my adoptive father Su Zhenbang was one of the country's top collectors, with many national treasure-level artifacts and massive assets. GU Hongyuan and Su Hongli had long been eyeing my father's collection and assets. They colluded, having GU Hongyuan's brother, then the CFO of the Su Group, cook the books and accuse my adoptive father of financial fraud, prompting the bank to call in loans and causing the Su Group's cash flow to collapse and the company to go bankrupt. When my father discovered it was them and prepared to expose them with evidence, they feared exposure and decided to kill him. Su Hongli paid the repair shop owner to cut the brake line on my father's car, staging brake failure and causing the fatal crash. GU Jingchen knew about the whole thing and even took part in planning. He transferred money for Su Hongli, helped destroy evidence, and helped cover up the murder. Moreover, GU Hongyuan's rise and the founding of the GU Group were built on seizing my father's remaining artifact collection and assets. Hearing this sent a chill through me. My adoptive father's death had not been an accident at all. GU Hongyuan and Su Hongli had jointly had him killed, and GU Jingchen was an accomplice. I had lived for 20 years in the house of my father's murderers. I had helped the men who killed my father build their company into an industry leader, How ridiculous, how ironic. I looked at Su Hongli and asked, word by word, "Do you have evidence for what you just said?" "Yes, I have the chat logs with Jiyu Hongyuan from back then, the transfer records, and the bank statements showing Jiyu Jingchen transferring money through me to the repair shop owner. I kept everything. I'm willing to hand it all over, testify in court, and expose Jiyu Hongyuan and Jiyu Jingchen. I only ask that you treat me leniently." I nodded and turned to leave the interrogation room. Lawyer Wang looked at me and said, "Miss Su, now the chain of evidence is complete. Jiyu Jingchen and Jiyu Hongyuan are suspected of intentional homicide. Even if they aren't sentenced to death, they'll spend the rest of their lives in prison." I looked out the window and couldn't hold back my tears. "Dad, can you see this? The people who hurt you have finally been caught. Your wrongful case will finally be vindicated. Your daughter has finally avenged you." That same afternoon, Jiyu family's parents learned the whole truth. They found out everything Jiyu Hongyuan did back then, learned that Jiyu Jingchen is not their biological son, and discovered that the son they'd raised for over a decade was an accomplice in Su Zhenbang's death. They completely collapsed. Gu's mother fainted on the spot and was taken to the hospital. In the detention center, Jiyu Hongyuan, knowing that Su Hongli had confessed everything, fell into utter despair and admitted to all his crimes. All of the evidence against Jiyu Jingchen was confirmed. With no chance of reversal, his final struggle utterly failed. What awaited him was the harshest punishment of the law. I returned to the studio, looked at my adoptive father's photo and whispered, "Dad, don't worry, I will make those who harmed you pay blood for blood." Lu Xian came up behind me, hugged me, and softly said, "Qingyang, it's all over now. From now on I'll be with you." I leaned into his arms and nodded. All the grievances were finally about to settle. My life was finally about to begin anew. 3 months later, the case against Jiyu Jingchen, Jiyu Hongyuan, Jiyu Nianru, Su Hongli, and others was tried publicly in court. The courtroom was filled with many journalists and citizens following the case. The gallery was packed. The prosecution presented all the evidence. Su Hongli, the repair shop owner from back then, and all involved testified, pointing to all the crimes of Jiyu Jingchen and Jiyu Hongyuan. Jiyu Jingchen sat in the defendant's seat, ashen and unable to utter a word. After 3 days of trial, the court pronounced its verdict. Jiyu Jingchen was convicted of smuggling cultural relics, fraud, infringing business secrets, false accusation, and framing, intentional destruction of accounting vouchers, and being an accomplice to intentional homicide. For multiple crimes, he was sentenced to life imprisonment, deprived of political rights for life, and had all his personal property confiscated. Jiyu Hongyuan was convicted of intentional homicide, child trafficking, fraud and bribery. For multiple crimes, he was sentenced to death with a 2-year reprieve, deprived of political rights for life, and had all his personal property confiscated. Jiyu Nianru was convicted of fraud and smuggling cultural relics, sentenced to 15 years imprisonment and fined 20 million yuan. Su Hongli was convicted of intentional homicide, fraud, and child trafficking. For multiple crimes, he was sentenced to life imprisonment and deprived of political rights for life. All other persons involved were sentenced in accordance with the law and received the punishment they deserved. When I heard the verdict, I sat in the gallery looking out at the sky and finally could not hold back my tears. "Dad, can you see this? The people who hurt you have received the punishment they deserved. Your wrongful case has finally been vindicated." The court also issued a notice overturning the wrongful verdict against the Su Group from that year, restoring my adoptive father Su Zhenbang's reputation, and returning to me all the assets and cultural relics that had been confiscated back then. I finally got justice for my adoptive father. Half a month later, I donated most of the cultural relics my adoptive father left to the Palace Museum, and also donated half of the assets to establish the Su Zhenbang Cultural Relics Protection Public Welfare Foundation, specifically to repatriate national treasures lost overseas and to inherit the restoration techniques for ancient books and paintings. I invested the remaining assets entirely into my restoration studio and the Lu Group's private museum project. My relationship with Lu Xiang also became increasingly stable. He respected my work, supported all my decisions, joined me in restoring relics, participated in charity with me, and spoiled me like a princess. That autumn, My restoration exhibition of autumn clearings in the mountain stream opened at the Palace Museum. Many industry experts, leaders, and numerous visitors attended the opening. The exhibition hall was packed to capacity. After a year of restoration, this severely damaged Song dynasty national treasure finally regained its former splendor and was perfectly presented to everyone. At the opening ceremony, I went on stage to speak as the restorer. Standing there and looking at everyone in the audience, I took a deep breath and began. This painting, Autumn Clearings in the Mountain Stream, took a full year to go from severe damage to renewed life. Cultural relic restoration is a dialogue with time, a heritage that spans millennia. I will spend my life doing this work well, safeguarding our nation's relics and passing on our intangible cultural skills. Thunderous applause erupted from the audience and lasted for a long time. After my speech, I stepped down from the stage. Lu Xiang came to me holding a bouquet of white roses, knelt on one knee, took out a diamond ring, looked at me with gentle, serious eyes and said, "Su Qingyang, ever since I first saw you at that banquet 3 years ago, I have liked you. I want to be with you for the rest of my life, to restore relics with you, to protect national treasures with you, to do everything you want to do. Will you marry me?" I looked at him, my eyes reddening. I smiled and nodded, reaching out my hand. "I will." He slid the ring onto my finger, stood up and held me tightly. The audience erupted into warm applause again. Everyone blessed us. The opening was a complete success. My restoration exhibition remained at the Palace Museum for 3 months, received over 1 million visitors, and the whole internet praised me, calling me the guardian of cultural relics. It was then that the prison called me. "Ms. Su Qingyang, hello, I'm an officer at the first prison. The inmate Jiyu Jingchen has repeatedly requested to see you in person, saying he has something very important to tell you face to face, and that he has something regarding your adoptive father to give you. Would you be willing to see him?" I was silent for a few seconds before replying, "All right, I'll come tomorrow." The next day I went to the first prison with my lawyer. In the visiting room, separated by thick glass, I saw Jiyu Jingchen. In just a few months he had completely changed. His hair was all white, he had wasted away, he wore prison clothes, his eyes were cloudy. Gone was the spirited man he had been before. He was a haggard middle-aged man. When he saw me enter, he suddenly lifted his head, his eyes brightening for a moment. He pressed himself against the glass and looked at me, his lips trembling. "Qingyang, you finally agreed to see me." I sat in my chair and looked at him, my tone calm and unruffled. "Weren't you going to give me something of my adoptive father's? What is it?" He looked at me, tears fell and his voice choked. "Qingyang, I know I was wrong. I really know I was wrong. What happened back then? I was possessed. I wronged you. I wronged Uncle Su. I regret it. I really regret it." He suddenly knelt down through the glass, kneeling to me, wailing as if his heart were being torn apart. "Qingyang, I beg you, forgive me, please. I know my crimes are heinous. I'm not even human. I beg you, plead for me. Help reduce my sentence, please. I don't want to spend my whole life in prison. I'm only in my 30s. I don't want it to end like this." I watched him kneeling on the floor, crying uncontrollably, and felt nothing. Indeed, it struck me as somewhat ridiculous. Back then, when he helped others kill my foster father and seize his assets, why didn't he imagine this day back then when he drove me out of the house for a swindler and vowed to ruin my career? Why didn't he foresee regret back then when he sent people to the Palace Museum to damage national treasures and tried to frame me to ruin my name? Why didn't he foresee this outcome? I looked at him, smiled, took out my phone, and pressed play. The phone played the words he said when he drove me out of the house all those years ago. I'll put it out here today. "In the whole cultural relic and art industry, whoever dares to use you, Su Qingyang, whoever dares to cooperate with you, is opposing my GU group. I want to see what you'll become without the GU family." After it finished playing, I put the phone away and looked at him, speaking each word clearly. "Jiyu Jingchen, back then you said that without the GU family I would be nothing. Now look at me and look at yourself." He knelt on the floor, staring at me, his eyes full of despair. "Qingyang, I really know I was wrong. I truly loved you back then. Really, will you give me one more chance?" "Loved me?" I laughed. "Jiyu Jingchen, your love was too cheap. I don't deserve it, nor do I want it. What you owe me, what you owe my foster father, cannot be repaid by a single sorry. Life imprisonment is the retribution you deserve." I stood up and looked at him, my gaze cold. "You want me to forgive you? Fine. When my foster father comes back to life, when the days you destroyed for me are restored, then I'll forgive you. Oh, and I paused, looked at him and added with a smile, the thing you said belonged to my foster father that you were going to return to me. I suppose it's this. I took from my bag the diary my foster father kept and placed it against the glass. This diary is what you stole from my foster father's office back then. It records all the conspiracies between you and Jiyu Hongyuan. I found it and handed it to the police. It became the evidence that convicted you. Jiyu Jingchen's face went pale in an instant. He slumped to the floor, the light in his eyes entirely extinguished. I looked at him and spoke each word. Jiyu Jingchen, you're asking me too late. With that, I turned and left the visitation room, never looking back. Behind me came his heart-wrenching cries and desperate screams. But none of that had anything to do with me anymore. Outside the prison, sunlight warmed me. Lu Xiang was leaning against the car waiting. When he saw me come out, he smiled and opened his arms. I ran to him and threw myself into his embrace. Grinning happily, he leaned down, kissed my forehead and said softly, "It's all over, let's go home." I rested against him and nodded. The car drove toward the city. I watched the scenery roll by the window and felt a smile at the corner of my mouth. Past grievances had been settled. Those who harmed me had received their due punishment. My foster father's wrongful case had been cleared, and my life was only just beginning. In the future, I will lead my team to restore more national treasures, preserve intangible cultural heritage, and protect our nation's cultural gems. I will also live well with Lu Xiang and head toward the bright future that belongs to us. My life has never needed to depend on anyone. I myself am the light.